You, Councillor Mantis makes quorum. I really appreciate that. I'm Councillor Alejandra Bravo, and I'm the chair of the Economic and Community Development Committee. We have quorum, and I am now calling meeting 21 to order. Welcome, everyone, members of the public, councillors, and city staff. Today's meeting is being held by video conference and in person at City Hall in Committee Room 1. This meeting is also being live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. As we like to do here is first, of course, acknowledge the land that we're on and take a breath and remember that the Economic and Community Development Committee is meeting today on the traditional territory of many nations, Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples, and more recently the Mississaugas of the Credit. It's home now to diverse First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and that this territory of Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We also want to acknowledge that the City of Toronto, we are all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, either in this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. If you are here to speak and are registered at today's meeting, please listen for me to call your name. I will be calling speakers in the order they appear on the list. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the Economic and Community Development Committee page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. Members, the city clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council and on CMP, the clerk's meeting portal. Clerk's IT staff are available to members if you need help with your devices. I also want to remind you to please submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at ecdc@toronto.ca to help with motions. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? No. Seeing none, we are going to proceed. May I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our meeting on May 6, 2025? Moved by Councillor Moise. All those in favor? That's carried. So let's proceed now with the agenda review. EC 21.1, Toronto Pearson Annual Update. That's held for a presentation. EC 21.2, Toronto Licensing Tribunal 2024 Annual Report. And would anyone like to hold that? Held by, that's held by Councillor Candeville. EC 21.3, Dangerous Dog Review Tribunal 2024 Annual Report, and we have a speaker, so that's held down. EC 21.4, Changes to Business Improvement Area Boards of Management, Wards 8, 12, and 15. Would anyone like to hold or move that? That's moved by Councillor Moise. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. EC 21.5, Sociable Academy and Summit Post-Conference Report. That's a letter from Councillor Paul Ainsley. Would anyone like to hold it? I see Councillor Ainsley is here. Pardon? If Councillor Ainsley, I think, is here to say a word, and then I have a motion actually to refer. Go ahead, Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just here to, so I put this forward report as the city's night economy champion. I attended the Social Academy and Summit in Sacramento, California last month. It was a great event. I had fellow night economy champions from not only around North America, but there were some there from Europe. So it was a really unique opportunity to connect with a broad network of leaders advancing innovation in the night economy field. There was law enforcement, district management, city planners, economic development staff, and it really showed that how we're dealing with the night economy in the city of Toronto. We're on the right track. We're progressing well. And I got a lot of positive feedback from other municipalities. So I'm putting the summary forward of the event, and I'd ask for it to be received for information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Ainsley. I also appreciate the work of you capturing this. I have a motion to refer the item to the General Manager of Economic Development and Culture for discussion at the Inclusive Economic Development working table. There are some important information that comes forward here around circular economy, incentivizing the local economy, and making some important transitions at the local level. So we, to appreciate the work that we've done, we're going to be referring it to that working table. Any questions of the mover?
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're most welcome. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Moving on to EC 21.6.
Sorry, what, can I put my new business on?
We're not, when we're done.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
apologize.
Yeah, we're almost there.
The new business from our night economy mayor.
That just shows how enthusiastic you are, Councillor Fletcher, for and we're going to miss your enthusiasm at the Economic and Community Development Committee meetings now that you're becoming chair of Infrastructure and Environment Committee. EC 21.6, Olive City Response to Homelessness and Support Needs. That is a letter that I've submitted, and I would like to move adding it to new business. Are there any questions about the letter and the recommendations? Yeah, let's adding it to the agenda. Mine. All in favor? Opposed? Abstention from Councillor Fletcher. And then so do we talk about it here and then on the next one? Yeah, okay, yeah. Now we're going to add your letter, Councillor Fletcher. Can we display the motion? And this is a letter from Councillor Fletcher. Yes. All in favor of adding it to the agenda? Oppose? It's carried and it's now added. Now can we can go back to EC 21.6, Olive City Response to Homelessness and Support Needs. This is just direction to the city manager to work with the deputy city manager, community and emergency services, and the deputy city manager, community development and social services, to report back by October 28 of this year at this committee with an inventory of initiatives, programs, and services offered by city divisions, agencies, and partners to support unhoused residents, and on governance options to enable a cross-divisional citywide response. Members, I've added this letter because I think that we understand that homelessness is referenced in almost every committee. You know, transportation touches it, Toronto Transit Commission agendas, Toronto Public Library, of course the Shelter Division, Social Development intersects with it, Public Health, Fire, Ambulance. We have so many different divisions that have a hand in this, and of course on the planning and housing side, the solutions to homelessness. So this is taking an all-of-city approach so that we have coordination, work across any silos that might exist, and treat it like the human emergency it is, and also the challenge it is for our local economy in many ways, if you think about its reference in the action plan for Toronto's economy as well. Are there any questions of the mover? Oh, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. On to the next item, and that's Councillor Fletcher's letter. Councillor Fletcher, would you like to move your item?
Oh, yes, I'd just like to move my item and say, for one thing, I think everybody knows how beautiful this Luminous Vale is. It was put in for the Pan Am Games. Whether you're driving across the bridge, walking or cycling, or whether you're on the Don Valley and you're looking up at night, it's supposed to be stupendously beautiful, but only half of it is because most of the lights aren't working. The different sections simply aren't working. So this is now, let's get it working as the general manager. Let's have it working for FIFA, that's all. bookended. Well, no, and past FIFA. There's something went wrong in the way that was being installed, and then it was left up to the public to call and say the lights are out, rather than an automatic trigger for whoever's looking after the lights. So I really believe it's the largest public artworks in the city, if not the country, and we need to bring it back into its proper repair and operation.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the mover? I think there were some questions that were quietly asked by Councillor Moyse, but answered. Okay. All in favor? I think I heard this is going to be done in time for FIFA.
Well, I'd like it done for next week, but
Okay.
I don't know.
All in favor of the motion? Opposed? That's carried. We'll go back to the top of the agenda and want to welcome our presenters today, the Greater Toronto Airports Authority. I'll ask you to come forward and to please introduce yourselves as you go. Welcome to committee.
Good morning, everyone. Chair Bravo and the rest of the committee, thanks very much for having us here today. My name is Rajiv Vishwanathan. I'm your City of Toronto nominee serving on the board of the Greater Toronto Airports Authority. To my left is Doug Allingham, the chair of the board, and Karen Mazurkiewicz, who is our VP of Stakeholder Relations and Communications. So what we want to talk to you about today is three things, primarily. I joined Pearson board in October 2020. We want to talk to you about three things again, which encompass operationally, where we are, the LIFT program, the long-term investment in facilities and terminals, a decades-long program that we're embarking on, and really talking about the economic activity that Toronto Pearson provides to Toronto, the GTA, and Canada overall. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Karen to take you through the slides that are up on the screen.
Thanks so much, Rajiv. So at Toronto Pearson, the previous 2 years, we consider a little bit of our comeback from COVID, and we've rebounded very quickly. So we grew to 44.8 million to now 46.8 million passengers in 2024. Now, Pearson is the most connected airport in North America, and by connected, I mean how many point-to-point flights and routes there are internationally. And right now we have 175 international destinations with 33 domestic destinations. That speaks very well for tourism, which I'm sure there's going to be some questions around tourism and growth going forward. But we also, not only are we 43% of Canada's international travel, we make up 45% of our air cargo as well in the country. So just to show you how important that we are. What we've seen in 2024 is that steady incline in traveler demand. And once again, we like to humble brag a bit that the Airport Council International, which is the gold lead for measuring passenger satisfaction, ranked us the best large airport in North America for the 6th time in 7 years. So just moving on from that a little bit about, as Rajiv said, we're going to talk a bit about airport performance. And we're working really hard with our industry partners to provide an improved and consistent level here. The good news, I think people are seeing it, and it's again great for Toronto's overall tourism and travel reputation. We have aided in all these great numbers with a new airline partnership agreement incenting airline operational performance. So the numbers we've seen have been great. We've also implemented some digital solutions to streamline passenger experience. And as you can see up here on the board, our wait times and agencies are performing very well to the targets of 2024. One of the things I always like to say, if you haven't got your Nexus card, use the US Mobile Passport Control app. You can get through the airport extremely rapidly through the transborder into international destinations, so we highly recommend that. And again, our efforts are recognized not only with the ACI report, but with Skytrax, Newsweek, Canada's most responsible company ranking for 2025, and Forbes Canada Best Employer list. So the other thing that we were very active last year on was working on a number of reports to look at the impact, the economic impact of Toronto Pearson in the region. So we looked at a round range around the Pearson Economic Zone, or PEZ as we like to call it. And what's really important is the last time this was done was around 2017. So these are updated numbers, and we're seeing incredible growth from that. Now, you know, it's always hard to sort of encapsulate all of that impact, but the airport alone generates $17.7 billion across Canada, and for the City of Toronto alone, $2.3 billion. And just to give you an idea, this is, we talk about the employment zone about being 200 kilometer squared radius around the airport. What we have determined as well is that it's the second largest employment zone in the country. Now, not only do we have 52,000 people that work at Toronto Pearson, there is 500,000 people that work in this zone, and that's up from 100,000 from the last time we did that work. So it's really very important to note. And 17,000 of those jobs are held by your City of Toronto residences. So we, you know, it's really important to continue to work together on a lot of this front going forward. So unlocking this economic growth, also Rajiv referred to Pearson Lift, the long-term investment in facilities and terminals. So there's 3 phases of this. The accelerator program, which is the upgrades and improvements to the critical operation assets. We are going to be announcing soon a contract award for that first big important piece in a matter of weeks. So stay tuned for that. Coming very fast on this is our gateway, which is delivering you know, expansion of our facilities to now allow the airport to provide better passenger experience and increased demand. The forecast is that we're going to be going up to 65 million passengers per year by the early 2030s. And then the third program is the T1, T3 revitalization. So these are absolutely important. Happy later to take any questions on that and how it will help grow the region going forward. So I think the next important thing is looking at some of the key issues and things that we're going to be discussing. I'm going to turn this now to our chair, Doug Hellingham.
Thank you, Karen, and good morning, committee chair and members of the committee. Thank you for having us here today. We appreciate the opportunity to provide you with this update. As you've just heard, there's a lot happening at the airport, and there's going to be a lot happening at the airport over the next few years. Our board is focused on several key issues, not unlike many of the issues faced by every large organization and municipalities like the City of Toronto. But as you know, with every challenge comes opportunity to think and to do differently, and this can often spur opportunities for the co-creation of innovative solutions. A major development at the scale of Pearson Lift is very challenging. It's going to be one of the biggest infrastructure projects in Canada. We have issues with, we have challenges with procurement, competition, the workforce required, the materials that we need. To mitigate, we have hired a program management team that will look to bring the best tools and talent to support this effort. We're also developing a community benefits and social procurement program and principles to which input and implementation in collaboration with the City of Toronto will be required. Another major concern of ours, which I'm sure is a concern of the city, is cybersecurity. That's probably the one thing that we all, everybody on the board loses sleep at night over. Corporations everywhere face this threat. We have a duty to protect the airport and everyone traveling through it. And we are open to knowledge exchange and joint planning with the city where it might make sense. As you've heard earlier, we've made great strides in improving our customer and passenger experience, and we won't be resting on our laurels. There are also risks around technology adoption and industry disruption that we are monitoring for impact. But we're also tapping into ways that we can continue to innovate and find efficiencies. Rajiv?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. You know, with the partnerships that you have with many of the local post-secondary education, secondary institutions, you know, we're looking for ways to partner with you. We can even work collaboratively in some of those spaces to problem solve, try to help solve the problems of the city and the greater region together and really develop the leaders of tomorrow. You talked about FIFA earlier. You know, that's a great opportunity. We're going to be the gateway for many international passengers who are going to be coming to Toronto, along with the teams that are going to be playing here. Toronto and Pearson Airport are really going to be that first presence that people are going to see and feel. And we want to make sure that we hit it off on the right foot. You know, and finally, just like the rest of Canada, we're also dealing with the geopolitical landscape here. Tariffs, Canada-US relations, we aren't immune to any of that stuff. And trust me, at the board level, these are things that we're finally attuned to, and we're working together to make sure that we mitigate risk. And as the guys have told you about already, you know, we're really embarking on a very ambitious program to help build the airport of tomorrow. We stand shoulder to shoulder with you guys here at the City of Toronto. We want to work with you. We're very appreciative of your support. I'm personally very appreciative. If you think about October 2020, which I alluded to earlier, if you think about where we've come from the depths of COVID to now talking about one of the largest infrastructure programs in Canada, it's pretty inspiring and something I'm really glad to be a part of. And I can speak for the rest of the board that we all are very proud of what the next decade brings forth for the City of Toronto and Pearson Airport. So with that, we're going to conclude our presentation, kind of the formal remarks, and we'll open it up to questions.
Thank you. Councillor Moise, questions?
Thank you. Thank you for coming in today. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I'm not as enthused. So I was in Ottawa last week for a conference, and I saw that they had a new screening machine that you actually don't have to remove your laptops and phones. It just goes right through. And so my question to you is, when will that technology come to Toronto? It was really, you know, innovative.
So the security screenings run by the CATSA, which is the federal government's security screening. And so they're in charge of implementing all the new technologies coming into airports. Of course, we're working very, very closely with them. And one of the things on our agenda going forward now with the new government, federal government, and the projects of national significance, which they, you know, the Prime Minister Carney has announced, part of that is that we are going to make a submission to accelerate the digitization at which and security efforts at the airport, so that we get better, more efficient, you know, travel of passengers through. So, Councillor, we share, you know, your frustration of you know, having that technology that we would like to improve going forward. It is that agency and the government determining the spending, but we will work very hard to advocate to move these things going forward in a, in a more quicker way.
So when I do exit from Pearson, it's a good seamless experience for me, which is great.
Great.
The issue I have with is when I actually come into the airport. In comparison, let's say, to Trudeau International Airport, there is a children's section. While people wait for their flights, kids can go and play, and it helps them and their parents and everybody else. When I was in South Korea airport, there was a section where people could actually, who are waiting for the flights, they have a quiet section, they could lay down, they could relax, there's recliners. And for those who has sensory issues, if you're autistic or, there are quiet spaces for you. And again, for seniors, there's also space for them to just relax and to sit in a comfortable space. I find that at Pearson, we don't have none of those things that enhances the experience for people while they're waiting for their flights. Is there any initiative to actually look at best practices elsewhere to incorporate some of those things?
So, on accessibility? We'll switch it. So first, I would say we do have two children's areas at Toronto Pearson in Terminal 1, one in sort of the middle of the terminal for kids to play, and there's also a lovely area where we do movies and do movie nights. We also have a lot of coloring books and activities. I'm just working on a group with that. In terms of accessibility, we actually have also won the Rick Hansen Award for many things that we're doing to support accessibility, whether it's autism or elderly people with disability or folks with disabilities that require sort of wheelchair support. And I think we're also putting together, if I'm not mistaken, as I've seen this through, an auditory, like a quiet room for exactly what you said on that. So there are a number of these places at the airport that we do. Can we do better? Are we going to do better? Is Pearson Lift going to, develop that out? Absolutely. I think we're going to have increasingly more and more better passenger experience pieces going forward. Doug, do you want to speak?
Through the chair to Councillor Moyes, great comments, and I think the board has identified some of these issues over the last couple of years. And as we embark on the LIFT program, we will be looking at terminal renovations, terminal expansion, and it's appropriate that you ask the question at this time because we're just about to embark on a process with some outside experts on terminal design. And we will be consulting with our stakeholders and outside stakeholders to look at what are the kinds of things that we should be including in our terminals that you see elsewhere around the world that would make us the best airport from a passenger experience on a go-forward basis. So your comments are very appropriate, and we will take some of them back to this panel, which is about to convene in a week or two. So all of these things we are certainly concerned about and looking at.
So there's one follow-up question. Am I over time? One final question. Who are these people that will be convening on this panel? Are they average people like myself, or are they like,
So giving you,
Okay, that was my final question.
okay.
Through the chair, the first round is we have a number of outside experts, architects, planners.
Museum.
Sorry?
Museum curator.
Museum curators. So the first engagement is with experts, and we will be engaging with the community on an ongoing basis as we move forward. So it's an external process intended to get us to be the best airport.
Thank you. Any other member? Just for today only, because we have a light agenda, giving extra time. Go ahead, Councillor Candeville.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And first of all, great deck. A former teacher, I can, appreciate the great mix between graphics and numbers and content. So thank you for the presentation. Very helpful for us to understand such a significant partner for us and tremendous impact on the GTA and, of course, obviously the national stage. The first question is to do with employment lands. Relatively versed within the City of Toronto, but I'm curious to what exposure you guys have with that conversation with the City of Brampton and the City of Mississauga, and are there any concerns?
So I would say it's a major concern that we have is protecting employment land. So thank you so much for that, this question and raising it. So this comes up in a lot of the research that we did do, which shows that the diversity, not only do we have one of the largest manufacturing hubs around the airport and the number of jobs around the airport and how important it is to preserve employment lands. Alternatively as well, when we talk about noise and noise complaints, probably the most important tool to mitigate noise complaints is to not build residential houses around airports. And I know this sounds like a very simple, but we are now facing a lot of proposals or development that the City of Toronto is seeing. I think in the last year there were 16 housing proposals going up with very high buildings that might interfere with flight paths, but also noise.
Right.
You bring more residents in and around an airport, you might get a lot more noise complaints. And just to give a little bit of interesting example, the City of Chicago did allow encroachment around the airport, and in order for them to expand, they had to spend about $15 billion to buy out some of the housing there. So we have a really great opportunity now because there isn't a lot of residential in the immediate airport operating area, but the pressure to build in those sort of cheaper lands is great, and we really need the support of this government to be able to ensure that this doesn't continue.
Sorry, thank you for that, very helpful. Are you seeing any conversion attempts or requests from Brampton and Mississauga?
Yes, particularly Mississauga, less on Brampton, but
Right.
that strip of Huron, Ontario, for
Right.
example, which has a lot of commercial, we understand there's pushes to develop that. Mayor Parrish has mentioned that she's interested in developing that strip, and that is right over Flight Path. The noise levels around that area would be like holding up a vacuum cleaner to your ear.
Gotcha.
Like 70 decibels. It is not a place you want to put schools. It's not a place where you want to have parks. It's not a place to build residential.
No doubt, no doubt. Second question, mention of large-scale events. Obviously, FIFA is the big one. My sense is that we haven't hosted, perhaps given our size and scope and ability, enough large-scale events. Are there any on the horizon that you think, what should perhaps our approach be to large-scale events, and what are you seeing in comparison to cities similar in size and stature? Are we hosting enough, or attempting to host? Like, what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, for us as an airport, our job is to facilitate, to allow, the wave of tourists coming through. And I can tell you that our teams already, from an operations point of view, are already gearing up and have been for a while to manage FIFA. We also did a lot around the Taylor Swift concert, and it was, and doing, a lot of work behind the scenes in order to facilitate that ensuring that smooth. smooth. I would love to see, I mean, I call Toronto the city of festivals. I mean, there's so many wonderful festivals. I think it's what makes this city really dynamic and interesting. And we at the airport would continue to love to partner with Destination Canada. We did work with, or Destination Toronto, we did work with the Mississauga Tourism Association as well to do the Taylor Swift activation. So we want to partner a lot more with the city to be able to promote and support your efforts to bring these kinds of events to the region.
Gotcha. And last question, I was curious about working in the post-secondary space that was mentioned near the end. If you could elaborate and perhaps provide some specific examples of how, whether it's Toronto, Ryerson, or TMU and other schools, what do you have in mind? York, obviously around the corner. What do you have in mind there?
In terms of partnering with them?
Yeah, in terms of the
Jobs pipeline.
Okay.
That is a key element we're starting to develop significantly this year as well. We have a lot of colleges around us, Humber being one, Seneca, Centennial, Sheridan, as well as the universities. We have some programs now, but we're actually going to be leaning in to develop more. We also are working with, for example, Humber College right now. We just gave them, we have a community granted process, and we just donated some money to Humber for micro-credentialism, so to help newcomers get credentials so they can get into the workforce faster. So we have really redesigned our Propeller project, where we do give out, this year we just announced $1.57 million to different programs, and a lot of it is targeted around work employment, and increasingly we're going to be spending and working with the colleges and universities around the airport to be able to do that kind of micro-credentialism and developing sort of that talent pipe stream to get into the workforce. We know that even our accelerator program, we're going to have about 2,000 new jobs just around that. So the need for jobs is critical. We're also actually working with the Aviation Museum in Ottawa to work in the secondary schools. They did a pilot program in Ottawa with NAVCAN, which was really exciting. So we're now working to bring them to Toronto Pearson to work with high school students to get them excited about aviation jobs.
A lot of extra time today, so.
Can I just quickly, with your indulgence, a comment?
You, after, we can
That's
speak,
My
right?
bad, yeah.
Question, Councillor Fletcher.
Just tell me, what is your policy with Uber, limousines, taxis at Toronto Airport, Pearson?
So taxis and limousines, we have obviously they have sort of priority, if you will, at the airport. They're licensed, and they work well in the airport. Uber has also Uber comes to the airport, but we don't promote them, in the same way we do to support the taxis and limos going forward. It's we help the taxi and limos, that's sort of the legacy carriers to be able to continue to work and get great fares at the airport.
But taxis can't pick up; they can only drop off.
Oh, you're talking from taxis from outside can only drop off. Yes, you have to be licensed within the airport through the license of there's a group of taxis that are licensed.
At the airport is limos to pick up and drop off.
So no, there's taxi services that are also licensed for the airport as well.
Not Toronto taxis.
No.
Which taxis are licensed to pick up at the air? Who's licensed to pick up at the airport?
Well, we have a special group that are licensed to.
And who are
up.
they?
Well, it's Brampton and Toronto and Mississauga, I think.
Limousines?
I think it's all over. I think it's, I'll have to double check, but you have to be licensed through the airport in order to do pickups at the taxi.
Correct. So who's licensed to pick up at the airport?
Yeah, we'll follow up on if you want the specific
I wanted
cabs,
that here.
taxis.
Is
We'll
it-
we'll follow up and get you some information, Councillor Fletcher.
Well, I kind of wanted it today. Limos are licensed by you to pick up and drop off at the airport.
Correct.
I think we agree on that. Taxis in Brampton are licensed to pick up and drop off at your airport. Is that correct?
It's not all of them. There is a certain group of taxis that are licensed by the airport to pick up and drop off.
Okay. And taxis are able to drop off at the airport
Correct.
if they're from Toronto.
From
but they-
anywhere, yes, correct.
But Toronto taxis cannot pick up at the airport.
Unless they're licensed through the
Through you.
GTAA, through us.
You have to license, so
Yes.
they're not. And then Uber is licensed by you.
They're not licensed by us, but we
They're
have
not
an agreement
licensed
with
by you.
them. We have an agreement with them, yes.
But they don't have a license.
Well, we have a contract with them.
Well, is that not a license? So are they able to pick up and drop off at your airport?
They're able to pick up and drop off at the
So
airport.
taxis in Toronto cannot pick up because you don't license them.
Correct.
But Uber, you allow them to pick up and drop off because you license them with a contract.
We have a
I just
contract,
want to
correct.
have the
Yes,
facts,
that's
just the
correct.
facts.
Yes.
Those are the facts.
Those are the facts.
So do you think that's fair to taxis? And why did you make that agreement with Uber when you don't have that with taxis from Toronto?
There is only a certain amount of,
I think I'll ask our representative. Do we have a representative on the board? That's you, is it not?
Sure, I'm Rajiv Vishwanathan here, yes.
Yes, I
Look,
heard
it's
you
not a-
say that you're our City of Toronto person that is that right? Did I get that right?
You're right, Councilor
Okay,
Fletcher, I
thank
am.
you.
This is not an issue that I'm well-versed on. I think it's something that we'd certainly want to make sure that I'm not very familiar with the facts on this particular issue. It's something that I can commit to get back to you on, for sure.
Does it concern you that Uber can pick up at the airport, but taxis that have dropped off a passenger aren't able to pick somebody up there? from the
I
city?
think, Councilor Fletcher, I need to understand the facts and the issues before I respond
Okay,
appropriately.
so I'm going to ask for that report back as to how that all happens, since we have somebody there making it.
It's a fair, yep.
I think that's a fair question. I know Mr. Grant's going, why did she do that? But I am. I'll make the report back in November.
Yeah, are these, does that?
No. September. We need your brain power there. I guess I should just send that in as a motion.
Yeah, I'll be holding it down as well because I
Okay,
have
that's
some,
fine. All
for
right.
some other.
Perfect, thank you.
So I thank you very much for joining us today. It's, as you can see, it's prompted a lot of interest in the committee, and I appreciate the clarity as well of the presentation. Councillor Candoval really touched on a big area that I was interested in around economics, the economic zone, the economic powerhouse at all of the activities associated, also all the co-location of industries because of the hub, et cetera, and the need to protect employment lands. That's a message I think that we need to hear loud and clear here at Council. You'll find quite a few champions of economic, of employment lands here. I wanted to dig a little deeper with respect to the intake and recruitment, the jobs pipeline. I see that you are pretty serious about it, have an executive director in charge of community engagement, and there'll be a director recruited for community engagement and impact, and that will be part of making sure that there's local economic benefits. So one of the kind of gaps I note is that while the City of Toronto has Anchor TO, which is anchor institutions that include quite a lot of on the social development side and the kind of human development side with respect to education, et cetera, one of the anchor institutions isn't the GTAA, and I think that would you be interested in having a closer relationship so that what we're learning, what we're doing, what we can enable at the City of Toronto to create a jobs pipeline, especially in the northwest corridor of the city, where we have a lot of young people and coming out of colleges and universities and not connecting to the job market. Is that something that would be of interest to you?
Absolutely, and we're also looking at starting sort of career expos. We've had a few big job fairs in the past that have attracted a lot of people. You might have seen them in the news, but we want to get more to the communities now. So we're reassess that, and now we want to go into doing more discrete career expos into the communities, maybe the libraries, et cetera. So we'd love to hear from the committee as well as to where they would like us to hold some of these career expos. We just did one at the Melton Youth Center, for example, and made some announcements, but would like to continue to do that and be more in the communities.
That's excellent, and we have right now at the City of Toronto a community benefits office. We have social procurement function, and a lot of other pieces, but we're also developing for the end of this year an inclusive economic development framework, and I co-chair that working table. I think there's a lot of prospect for kind of connecting all of these dots because, as you mentioned, every part of what we need here runs through being able to provide, especially younger people and people who are underused, overskilled and underused in the economy. So that's wonderful, and I think your mentioning of both community benefits and social procurements and wanting to build that out, this is a really big opportunity for that. I also wanted to thank you and note that you're still committed to ensuring that we have an equity lens on your work, and I think there's a lot of prospects here. So I'm not going to speak any more to this, but I will hold it down. Councillor Fletcher would like to move something, and I will be also working with our Deputy City Manager about what the social development side can do here and making sure that it meets up with the work of our Inclusive Economic Development Working Table. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councillor Burrows.
Are there any questions of city staff? Nope. Okay, so we're going to hold this down and move on to the next item. Thank you very much for joining us and for the great presentation. We look forward to talking again. We're going to move on to EC 21.2, Toronto Licensing Tribunal 2024 Annual Report, and that was held by Councillor Candeville.
Condo licensing?
Yeah. I think you held 21.2. Do you have questions of staff?
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Candeville, questions of staff, your time.
Oh, they're over there. Okay. I thought they were coming here. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. As I shared in an email to staff, my questions are around MTH concerns, and I know my staff have been working with a number of staff representatives from all the impacted or relevant agencies, and we've been doing some work to address the illegal, I guess, or unregistered, unlicensed MTHs, and wanted to get a sense from staff how the visits or the bylaw officers, their concerns, and what are they observing as they make these visits?
So through the speaker, to clarify, that's not what this report is about. This report is about business licensing. The Multi-Tenant Housing Tribunal is a separate tribunal that we'll be reporting out later on the multi-tenant housing program in the fall. Okay, sorry, I made that assumption that this would be part of the package today. Thank you. That clarifies it. I think to build on Councillor Fletcher's questions earlier, the taxi cab licensing, and I of course wasn't here when that transition happened. Is there a trend on the number of taxi cab owners' licenses over the last few years, or is it stabilized? What is the general pattern on licensing with the taxi cab industry?
Again, to clarify, I'd say that's outside the scope of this report. This is about different businesses that we license that are brought before the tribunal
based on their renewals or based on enforcement.
Okay, so from an enforcement issue, what is the, what are the concerns outlined, or what's the pattern regarding that industry?
I can state that vehicle for hire driver's licenses that were before the tribunal was 23 in the previous year, and taxi cab owner licenses was 21. That's a small portion of the entire fleet. So these are, you know, items that come up at the time of renewal, typically, with our business licensing office at Coxwell Avenue.
So is it fair, given what clearly are smaller numbers in terms of issues, that the question on licensing taxi cabs or vehicle for hire hasn't been of concern in terms of granting or revoking licenses, given the total number?
Yeah, thanks for the question. The tribunal is one avenue that we can explore. We have a dedicated enforcement unit that works very closely with this industry, ensuring that they are complying with the city's bylaw.
And if you can give a qualitative approach to the decisions made by the tribunal, have there been any buckets or trends or patterns that kind of capture the context for revoking or amending licenses?
That's probably more appropriate for the chair of the tribunal. It's typically about putting conditions onto a business to ensure that they are meeting the expectations of the business and license bylaw and the vehicle for hire bylaw.
Okay, great. I guess finally, when did you mention the MTH report will be coming in?
It's in the fall of this year.
Do we know which month?
Not yet.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Questions of staff? Councillor Moise.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. The report does say, excluding licenses withdrawn for tow trucks. Who administers those licenses? Is it MLS?
So it used to be. In 2024, the province of Ontario uploaded the regulations of tow trucks for all municipalities to the province. As a result, they used to be a big client at our tribunal, and they are no longer, and so our numbers are down. But just to reiterate that the province of Ontario uploaded the licensing and regulations related to tow trucks in 2024.
So what role do we as a city play in all of that, if any?
We don't play a role from a licensing perspective. Our colleagues in the parking authority and the police would work with the towing industry to ensure that cars are removed where they shouldn't be on certain roads or parking spaces that they're not permitted to be in.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of staff? Councillor Fletcher.
Can a vehicle for hire driver lose their license? Or because they're not licensed through the city, what is the penalty?
A vehicle for hire driver is licensed through the city, and they can, the TLT can revoke their license.
In which case they can no longer drive for Uber, Lyft, or anybody else?
That's correct. There may be a cooling out period, but I think, yeah, once it's revoked, I'm probably conflating this with another industry where you can come back after a year. That's short-term rentals. So yeah, once it's revoked, you're correct. And it's the same for taxis, limos, and vehicle for hire drivers.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, would anyone like to move this item? Oh, sorry. Yes, there was a motion from Councillor Fletcher. I thought it was on. Clerk is working too hard. It was on a different item. So I'll move this. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Now we're going back to EC 21.3, Dangerous Dog Review Tribunal 2024 Annual Report, and we have a deputant. Is Nicole Corrado online? Yes. Okay. Hello, Nicole. Welcome to committee. You have 5 minutes. Hello.
Yes, I'm online. Yes, I'm right here.
Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, what I was going to say regarding the Dangerous Dog Review Tribunal, I think that a couple of things. I really like that Toronto's Dangerous Dog Review Tribunal is non-lethal. And I would say that Toronto should develop a non-lethal response for coyotes too. I really do not like that they hired that critter getter to shoot coyotes, because those poor coyotes were terrified of dogs. One of the things that the city of Banff has in their bylaw, a dangerous dog can also be a dog who's been attacking or harassing wildlife. There was a case where a dog had bitten a deer, and the deer got away, but the dog was given what's called a vicious dog title, which is the same as dangerous dog in Toronto. I would suggest that Toronto expand the bylaw to include dogs who are aggressive to wildlife. The other thing I would also say is that to review a dangerous dog case, you should revoke the fee, because not everybody can afford to have their case appealed. Another thing I would suggest is provide free training for all dogs, because regardless of not just dangerous dogs, but all dogs, be proactive. So because in the Montreal area, they have free training for dogs, any dog, at dog parks. So you could definitely do that. The other thing I would suggest is after there's been no incidents with any dogs, if you've had a dangerous dog status, have the status automatically rescinded if a dog just simply, there's been no issue with the dog for a while, then say, a year or two, there's been no further incident, you could just automatically rescind that dangerous dog status. That way, dangerous dogs are, people don't have to put a fee in for status, and their status isn't, dog isn't considered dangerous when they're, no longer actually dangerous. I don't think it should have to necessarily stay for the dog's entire life. I think it should be able to just be there as long as it's needed to be. So yeah, there's just a couple of things. I would just suggest that Toronto continue to be a leader for animals, and be a leader for not just domestic dogs, but also wildlife, and that Toronto continue to be good for animals. So is this even the right comment? Because is this the one about the Dangerous Dog Review Tribunal? Because that's the one I signed up for.
Actually, you are speaking to the Dangerous Dog Review Tribunal 2024 Annual Report, correct?
Okay, good, yes. Yeah, I think that Toronto, could certainly look at other municipalities that, say, have even more progressive bylaws. And I would also suggest that Toronto not enforce the breed-specific portions of the Dog Owners Liability Act. that the breed-specific portions of the Dog Owners Liability Act do nothing to protect anybody. And I think the city of Ottawa does not enforce that portion of DOLA, which is good. There's no need for it. It doesn't keep people safe. It gives a false sense of security. So I think that Toronto should actually speak out against breed-specific legislation and lobby the province to get rid of it.
All right.
And also, I think there needs to be support for homeless people and their animals. There needs to be a lot more support. Move away from animal control and move toward animal services. Any questions?
I don't think so. Thank you for your deputation today and for coming to committee. So we are back now at EC 21.1, Toronto Pearson annual update. And we held it for motions. And so that's why the item is 21.1, our first item. So we are back here for speakers, and we're going to go first with, unless Councillor Fletcher is ready. So would you like to speak to your motion? Pearson. Well, I thought we were dealing with your stuff. Oh, we haven't finished it yet. I'm sorry. Nancy and I are. And so this wasn't hers. Yeah, questions of staff. Sorry. Questions of staff. Councillor Fletcher. I thought people. I was confused. This is a bad day. Questions of staff. Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you. I think we'll have, what dangerous dogs are there at Toronto Airport? That is, how do we deal with those? There's the issue of, and I don't know who's going to answer this, or I think it might be legal, but the issue of severity, because that's something we've been trying to deal with for quite a while, as to how to attribute what's severe or not. And I gather that the weight of your staff, or the weighting your staff gives it, is how we're determining if it was severe through animal services. Is that right? Task staff.
So they use a number of different tools and methods to determine severity. The reason I think the tribunal and our group has not gone to a strict definition on severe is so that it doesn't, if something were to happen that didn't fit into that definition precisely, then we wouldn't be able to make the decision that we want to make. So the reason it's left a bit open-ended is to give our staff some flexibility, because there's a variety of things that could be considered severe. I know you and I and others have had discussions about different levels of severity. And again, it's my understanding that the reason it hasn't gone to a strict definition is to allow for our staff the flexibility to put a few things into that category.
But then the tribunal also has that same flexibility. They've given themselves that flexibility, correct?
That's correct. I think in the report, the chair speaks to not having a definition of severity, and my colleague in legal may wish to.
I do have to ask legal, because once our staff have said something is severe, how are they at the tribunal taking that into account, the professional staff? And how often are they overruling the severe attribution that task staff have given on a dangerous dog order?
So I don't
Very often?
I don't have the statistics on how often. I don't believe it's often that they're overturning that decision. I think there are some statistics in the report, and I'll defer again to MLS on the statistics. In terms of the tribunal's role, you're correct. They also will assess the severity piece based on the evidence provided by the MLS officers and enforcement staff, and any other arguments or positions taken by the subject of the dangerous dog order.
Thank you. Chair, I have specific questions regarding fairness that may have to go in cameras regarding one of the cases that was heard by the tribunal. I'd like to understand if I can ask those publicly or not.
It's a particular case with a named person. I believe that you could go in we could go in camera, or you could take it offline if you'd like.
Well, no, I think I need to understand that the role of fairness and whose job that is to ensure that that's taking place. It's a tribunal, but I'm also assuming that there's somebody from legal that's attached to the tribunal, and that would be that role. Administrative fairness is applied consistently, and what that, if something met the test or not, I have a question. I'm happy to ask it in public.
Sorry, we need to, I'm going to run your time again. You had a couple of minutes left. You need to direct that question to legal about whether we can ask those questions here or not.
Oh, well, I'll ask that. I have questions about a
right here.
particular report and whether administrative fairness was met by the tribunal in their appeal and hearing the appeal. Can I ask those in public, or do I have to ask those in camera?
So I can't comment on a specific proceeding that the tribunal independently ruled on and heard, and nor could this committee sort of assess or review the decision that the tribunal made.
It's very hard to hear you, I'm sorry.
We can talk about procedural fairness issues in general and the tribunal's and all tribunals' obligations to maintain procedural fairness in law. We can do that publicly, but we cannot review a tribunal's decision at this committee. That is not within the committee's authority.
But we could ask city legal to review that.
So
There is a requirement for administrative fairness, correct? Every tribunal?
I can speak in generally that tribunals owe a duty of procedural fairness to the parties at a tribunal, yes.
So let me just follow up here. If Councillor Fletcher wanted to pursue a particular decision about an incident over which there are named parties, where would be the appropriate venue to do that?
The appropriate venue to challenge or review the decision of a tribunal is in court by launching a judicial review of their decision. Yeah. And that's in the hands of the parties.
Because it's an adjudicated,
that's
it's
correct.
an adjudicating body.
I understand that. I'm not challenging the review. I'm challenging, or I'm asking about procedural fairness and whose requirement that is to ensure that is taking place at a hearing, and who oversees that. I believe there needs to be somebody that is ensuring that's taking place, because the tribunal is set up through the city. So is that city legal? Is that MLS? And what if there is a question about that?
So if the tribunal has a question about making sure that the parties are have had a fair hearing, they would seek legal advice on that particular matter.
It's not, I don't think that, I'm sorry if I'm not clear. It's just got to do to make sure the tribunal is conducting itself with procedural fairness on every appeal. Whose job is that? It's the chair's, but should it drift, is there not somebody from city legal there at every appeal, or maybe I'm wrong?
No, there is not a person from city legal attending each hearing to give the tribunal advice. We attend as required to give advice to the tribunal if required. And again, if a tribunal fails to meet the requirements of procedural fairness, the mechanism to review that is through the courts.
Yeah. The mechanism to review a question on procedural fairness of a City of Toronto tribunal is to take it, for the city to take their tribunal to court. Is that what you're telling me?
Again, when a tribunal makes a decision, it is considered final unless a party challenges their decision in court through judicial review.
We have a report here then. There's nothing, it's just for information. Is that correct?
Correct.
And if we have an issue or consideration that something has not happened well, what can we do as city council? We can change the tribunal, we can remove the chair, besides going to court? What advice can anybody give the tribunal? Because they could be making decisions that might not be fair. Or there may be questions about it from MLS and how they have approached something.
Yeah, Councillor, I think that the answer you received is that the tribunals have been empowered to be an adjudicating body, that their decision is final, and that should there be a perception or a feeling or a belief that one of the parties has been treated unfairly, the remedy there is for that party to go to court. And I think your question has to do with how, should there be a systemic problem in a tribunal, I believe, that you would want to understand what point, at what point does City Council have dominion over to the bodies it has created, is that correct?
I'd not say that's completely correct, that one of the parties has been treated unfairly. What is the requirement for an appeal in order for it to be fair?
I've given you like 3 extra
I hear you.
minutes.
I see that. I'm very frustrated because we all know what I'm talking about here. And there's a requirement for fairness, period, full stop, without going to court. That's what I believe. So I'll speak about that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of staff to speak? Councillor Fletcher.
No, obviously I'm fairly frustrated to hear that City Council is supposed to take its tribunal to court and nobody's reviewing. I'm sorry, that's what I heard. Oh.
The answer that was provided by legal and that I rephrased is that if a person who has been at the tribunal believes, feels, knows in their mind that they've been treated unfairly, it is up to them to go to court.
But it's not about that. It's about setting up procedural fairness for the hearing. Whether or not you agree with the outcome, what's procedurally fair at the hearing level? Is it procedurally fair to proceed without the other party? Is it procedurally fair to understand that what went on and why that other party might not be there? Is it procedurally fair to understand if all steps were taken to make sure the other party is there? And then that is not about if somebody's happy or unhappy, it's about the procedural fairness of the tribunal in its operations. Which is different than I don't like the outcome and that dog should remain under a dangerous dog order or something. That's different. The duty that we have is to ensure, I think, city staff, that it's procedurally fair when it starts. I'm sorry, I'm standing by that. I brought you that water, but I'm going to have it.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Thank you. I wasn't sure whose it was.
Thank you. I'll just say a quick word because I think that this is an important question that Councillor Fletcher has raised. There's a Procedures Act, Statutory Procedures Act, I believe it's called, but there is a statute that sets out how the tribunals can create its own procedural rules with the input of staff. So that's governed by statute. So we can, I'm not an expert on this, I just wanted to speak that if there's more to probe here, it's probably something to dive deeper into to understand the regulatory framework that creates the tribunals as adjudicating bodies whose decisions is final, and then there are some triggers for consideration of the decision, and that court is the ultimate recourse, but there are steps ahead of it as I understand it. So this is something I think that if you want to probe further, there's a broader question about the statutory powers that are provided to tribunals. And then if you would like to know which staff provides the support, I think that's a further probe. Are there any other speakers? Okay. On the item. It's still not
I'm not satisfied here. And is this going to city council? No, we're only receiving this. So I still don't understand legally what, being procedurally fair, whether it's at any of the
And
tribunals.
Councillor Fletcher, but I think you've done your time, and
Well,
I just want to keep the meeting in order. I understand that you're frustrated, and there's more to
just defer it
ask.
then. We can get report on how procedural fairness is dealt with.
I'm going to recommend against that because the answer that was provided by legal is that we don't get those answers at this committee. The committee is not in charge of ensuring that tribunals are functioning procedurally appropriately according to the advice that we just got from legal. So I don't believe it would be in order to bring this back here. Perhaps we could take a moment if you want to take a moment to find out where you would get that answer.
Yes.
We can move on to the next and hold this down for a minute. We're moving on to the next and final item, which is back to 21.1, Toronto Pearson Annual Update. We're at speakers now, and Councillor Fletcher had a motion, but I will move my motion in the meantime. Would you like to speak? Okay. No. Yeah, go ahead, if you want to say a word.
I just want to thank the presenters for coming in and giving us a substantive report. I'm happy that they've taken what I've said to heart, and hopefully it'll be part of their revitalization plan. Again, I've had the opportunity to travel through many airports, and I feel that Toronto Pearson, they can do a lot better than they are doing, quite frankly. And so I will be keeping a close eye on it and, provide feedback where I can. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor
Comments I
Canavan?
had were for them, but I see that they've left. Is there a way their contact, or at least our representative's contact, could be shared so I can send them my feedback?
Yes, absolutely. But would you like to say, characterize what you wanted to?
So just
No, I mean, it was a very helpful presentation. I think there is a lot of potential, obviously a big economic driver. My two comments were kind of similar in Councillor Moises' vein, operational. In April, when I returned from Asia, it could have just been at that point, none of the horizontal, I think they're called travelators, were working and coming from Asia, and including, countries not as developed. They had their travelators working, and also the lack of vegetarian food options in the terminals was appalling. Like, I had to eat a really bland sandwich, so I wanted to give them that feedback. But otherwise, I mean, it is obviously a critical component of our economic infrastructure, and there are very good things. Exiting customs was completely seamless, not even more than 2 minutes. So anyway, thanks, Chair.
Councillor, so I have a motion. And it's to direct Executive Director of Social Development in consultation with the General Manager of Economic Development and Culture and the Chief Procurement Officer to explore a partnership with the Greater Toronto Airport Authority to advance inclusive economic development initiatives, including Anchor TO. Anchor TO has been headquartered at Social Development for many years. It's an initiative to ensure that anchor institutions, universities, colleges, hospitals, large employers are considering equitable economic outcomes as core to their functioning so that they can use their purchasing power, their hiring power, their lands, any new development that is associated with their activities. And if you think about the University of Toronto Scarborough campus, incredible work has been done to create economic opportunities for local residents, particularly those people who are structurally, systemically excluded for a number of reasons from good jobs. This is about creating a pipeline to good work, decent work. And this is a great opportunity, particularly given the GTAA coming here, talking about their commitment to ensuring community benefits and social procurement as part of their work, and that they are staffing appropriately to support that. And they're hiring someone with a specific mandate to engage local communities, surrounding communities, and they've already started their work with job fairs, et cetera. City of Toronto has excellent partnerships and networks. If you think about the Community Benefits Office work with organizations such as the Toronto Community Benefits Network, which is helping people to come closer to the jobs pipeline, and that the GTAA is located in the northwest corner of our city, where there is large numbers of young people in particular who need economic opportunities, who are coming out of college, high school, university, or just need an opportunity to get into a decent job. And if you think about the range of employment, that from de-icing to ground crew to very sophisticated, work around cybersecurity, it's a really important employer. Wonderful to see that 17,000 of its 52,000, or I believe, or 54,000 staff live in the city of Toronto. And I appreciate the comments and the lining of questioning from Councillor Candeville. This is a massive economic zone, which brings huge numbers of employment. It's co-located with a lot of companies that work around logistics. We're talking about massive distribution of goods, of people, and protecting the surrounding employment lands is absolutely essential. The City of Toronto should be at 15%, ideally. We're at 12.5%, and I believe that it's germane for all of us in this committee, and I know that many of us care deeply about this, is that this is the jobs belt for Toronto, just like the green belt protects us in terms of our water supply and our food supply. The jobs belt is our insurance to making possible that we build in Canada, that we have good jobs here in Toronto, and that people can live close to where they work, and at the end of the end of the week collect a decent paycheck with good working conditions. So that's my motion. And any questions of the mover on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Councillor Fletcher, are you going to move your motion? We're at Pearson, 21.1, Toronto Pearson Annual Update.
Yes, please, I'll move that.
Would you like to, can you speak to your motion? Just.
Yes, there it is.
Okay.
Using bigger font now.
Yeah.
Yeah, report back to October 28th on the ride services for the airport, because this has been a topic forever, and it's a big surprise to me to hear that there's a separate license through Toronto Airport with Uber, but for pickup, but taxi services in Toronto, all of our taxi companies can't pick anybody up at the airport, even though they can drop off. So I just think that's extremely unfair. We do have a board member there, and I'd like to hear back about this, and we should pursue that. And
all right.
I know it's not in our jurisdiction, it's not our board, but as long as we have a member there, I think we should have the right to know this and advocate for everybody. Thank you.
Are there any questions of the mover? No. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Item is amended. No, we don't need to amend it because it was here for information. So that's the end of that item, and we are going back to the previous item, which is held down. Councillor Fletcher, we held this down for you to, were you going to speak?
Sorry,
on the
which one?
tribunal?
Yeah, I'll speak at the tribunal. I have since had a chat with Mr. Lynch, and I think that the point I was trying to make and the point he's made to me are met in the middle, that and I do call it administrative fairness, but certain cases that I gather that the tribunal has had some re-education lately based on reconsideration of an appeal and how that would take place. There's a case that is quite egregious that is part of their portfolio where they did create a dangerous dog order and then heard reconsideration and removed it in a very serious matter. So I'm satisfied that they have received instructions, but I would have preferred to be able to ask exactly what instructions they had received and who'd done that from city legal, because it's not MLS that does that. It's city legal that would then say, here's how you have to run your tribunal. Here's how you should do reconsideration. So I think that what I got mixed up in was the decision rather than the process that they agreed to hear something. And I understand that I've got to be careful, apparently. I have to be careful, although I'd like to be not careful here and tell the whole story, and Mr. Grant's looking at me because I've spoken with him many times about it. It's egregious, it's life-changing, and tribunal made a decision that I totally disagree with and find very troubling as to how it took place. I'm happy that there has been education of the tribunal, but I'm also concerned that nobody's here from that tribunal, I understand, today. I don't see anybody here. When we have licensing tribunals, generally the chair is here to answer questions. We have that at the LTT, we have that at planning. I don't know where they are for either the licensing tribunal or the dangerous dog tribunal. So, Madam Chair, I find that pretty serious. I don't know why. And I would assume now that City Legal and MLS will be flagging if there are, I'll call it, any straying from a very strict procedures around reconsideration that might not meet the test of fairness. And that's what I'm going to say. And I'm very sorry to the family in this situation.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Any other speakers? I just want to say thank you for flagging these important issues, Councillor Fletcher.
Where are they? Where's the chairs? Why aren't they here?
EC 21 point, that's an important flag for the future to make sure that they're here to answer questions.
Well, no, I just wonder why they aren't here. Who's supposed to invite them? Is that a consideration? They're to be here when you have an annual report?
Okay. So we're actually at the conclusion of the item. EC 21.3, Dangerous Dog Review Tribunal 2024 Annual Report is here to receive for information. All in favor? Oppose? That's carried. That concludes our meeting. Thank you very much for members of the public and staff and councillors for being here today.